Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another Celtics Nation Rise recap. Tonight, your Boston Celtics lose to the San Antonio Spurs by a score of 116 to 125. Tonight was a tough one, but nonetheless, it was a very fun game to watch. High level basketball played on both sides of the floor. And I really think this is the epitome of two of the best teams in this league. And so, yes, very frustrating, especially with Jalen Brown, which I'm sure we'll talk about, and Wembenyama scoring an absurd amount of points tonight. I mean, I'm almost at a point where I don't even like watching him because it's just unfair. And maybe call me a bitter Celtics fan, but this man, every time he touches the ball, he turns it to gold. So very fun game to watch, high level basketball, and honestly feel bad if you didn't have a chance to watch this game because it's going to go down as one of the better ones for this NBA season. But as always, I'm joined by Carl McDonald and Daniel Miguel. And tonight, let's hear your thoughts. Carl, let's start with you.
Yeah, you and I both, and actually Daniel as well, we talked about that. This was definitely a game that should be looked at. Um, I feel like could have definitely gotten more attention if, of course, the Celtics were able to mount some type of comeback and other things happening, of course, as well. Um, yeah, it's a shame not to, come out with the win, especially with what happened with Jalen Brown, which, I'll start off by, saying, you know, very weird turn of events and honestly something that does anger a lot of, Celtics fans and probably basketball fans in general. Him not getting that call and it getting to a point where he's quite literally foaming at the mouth, yelling at this referee. He's like, hey, why aren't you, calling this call? He gets the first technical foul and then going off again and then getting a second technical foul to be thrown out of the game. And this is a situation where, both parties are unfortunately in the wrong in this situation, with Jalen Brown. Again, with a situation like this, especially when you're up against a Spurs team with a literal cheat code in Wemby, you don't want to, take your foot off the gas. You want to continue, your momentum. You want to continue to at least make some type of comeback, or not comeback, but maintain the spot that you were to try and pick up this win. But you let, emotions get the better of you, and it not only costs you your spot on the team for tonight, but it costs your team, in general for tonight as well. Having said that, though, the NBA referees also have been serving as a problem. This has been a constant thing for many years now. Um, it's one thing for Jalen Brown to get that one technical, but it's another thing for him to get that second technical, especially when there have been other instances where players have done way worse. And it's just, a very weird situation there. Um, and even worse, when they're constantly reviewing the play and you can clearly see Jalen Brown being shoved, them not making the effort to, help him out there. And we're not expecting, the referees to be on our side and help us out every single time. But this was just, again, a very weird situation. And again, it definitely cost us. We tried to mount a comeback, towards the end of the game. And as we will be talking about later, Jason Tatum, put up a lot of great efforts, but mainly Derek White and Ron Harper Jr. looked really good out there too. And this was they were, serving as a few reasons why this was such a great game. I feel like, and, we all feel like the Celtics could have came away with this win even without Jalen Brown and, of course, Peyton Pritchard, who was out with minor neck injury. So definitely, something, to look at is that the Celtics came close to, potentially tying this up, maybe even winning this, but unfortunately couldn't get the job done because of Jalen Brown's actions. The referees just acting like the referees, and just in general, we couldn't get it done.
Yeah. To just talk about that Brown situation a little bit, a little bit. It's yeah, like you said, Carl, a little bit of both. It's like yeah, the refs were at fault definitely, for some of it, because you don't call the foul on Jalen Brown, and then it wasn't even the ref that Jalen Brown was talking to that text him. That's what I found weird. Like the ref the JB was like talking at didn't do anything. Like he was just standing there listening to it. It was the other like the side ref who was just watching this that ended up giving that double technical, which I just thought was weird. Like I feel like it should be the ref the JB was talking to be the one to throw him out. So I just kind of feel like maybe it wouldn't have happened if the other ref just didn't do anything about it. Maybe it would have just because of the way JB was reacting. But yeah, the other half of it is Jalen Brown is also at fault. I feel like after the first stack, that's when you just started like quiet down, no matter how bad the call was or the miss on the call was. You get the first tech, and that's when you kind of like chill out, because you don't want to get that second tech. And he was at risk because he kept going. And I understand his point. I understand where he's coming from. It should have been a foul, but at the same time, we've talked about this before during the season where these actions of going and complaining to the refs are costing us. Whether it's still in the game, like still the play's still going, and you're stuck talking to the refs, or a situation like this where the play is stopped, but because you're going to complain to the ref and stuff like that, you're not getting thrown out of the game. So we've mentioned um, the fact that you know complaining to the refs is not going to change anything. Basically, is the point I'm trying to get at, and I just feel like it was kind of a reckless decision by JB. Um, not, I don't think him complaining was the reckless decision, but I think him being adamant about it after the first tech, that was the reckless decision on JB's part. So yeah, definitely both parties at fault. Because yeah, with JB in the game, I was talking about it before we started this. I think we win this. I think we have a really good chance at winning this one. If JB continues to play, because that first quarter he was going crazy. He was absolutely our best player by far. Tatum started off cold, so JB had it going for him. And it would have been a really good game because it was a matchup that the whole NBA was excited about watching. And this was not only a game to prove the Celtics as like a top three team in the league, but it was a game to solidify and kind of push Jalen Brown towards that MVP top three, top two, maybe even top two conversation. And it was one that if he had stayed in, I think his a case would have been made after the game for Jalen Brown in regards of winning an MVP. But he went and ended up messing it up. And like you said, Carl, it didn't only cost him that, but it cost the team as well because you're down a player that impacts the game offensively and defensively. So part of me kind of feels like without JB, our defense was kind of like slacking a little bit at times. There were possessions where we are able to make up for it, but there were also times where on a defensive possession, it's just different with Jalen Brown before. Offensively as well, you have Tatum and White both dropping 20 plus, and Ron Harper Jr. Who knows what the outcome of the game would be with JB still in it. But on the game itself, I think it was a good game from us. We definitely had a chance to win it. Not really much to say negatively about the team and the players. It's just that JB situation that changed everything up.
Yeah, I mean, definitely, you guys touched upon a lot of the points that people across the league and within the media are going to make. For one, I do think Jalen Brown was being a little aggressive with the refs, considering the play that he was frustrated over. And look, I agree there was a bit of a push there. There was a bit of a shove, but Jalen Brown's a strong guy, man. I mean, to me, there was a bit of embellishment there, and I'm not gonna go either way. I mean, it could go really either way, right? I mean, I wasn't there. I wasn't in the play, so it's straight speculation from my standpoint. But to me, there was slight embellishment with that play, and I think it could have gone either way. I will say, with the caliber of this game and kind of the magnitude and the stakes that were there, I think the refs should have kept their cool. I really, really, really do. Just from I mean, this game is an NBA. It's an entertainment standpoint too. And I don't know what Jalen Brown said, and to be honest, I wouldn't be surprised if it was a little flagrant, man. I wouldn't be surprised if it was a little aggressive and a little cutthroat. I wouldn't put it past him. not going against him as a human being, but just from the standpoint, there's been a lot of animosity this season with refs. There's been a lot of frustration, and it just seems like this year Jaylen Brown has time and he's willing to take it out on these refs, and he certainly did that tonight. But I will say with Jaylen Brown, he had 8 points and 8 assists in that moment before he got ejected. I mean, it was MVP against MVP tonight, right? Victor Wembanyama, Jaylen Brown. The story was written tonight, and it was making its way to be a masterpiece of a game. And the refs decided to throw these guys out, throw Jaylen Brown out. I mean, yes, I agree. It goes both ways, and I do think Jaylen Brown this season in particular has been a little slightly too passionate with the refs, where you've kind of already spoken your mind at this point, and I think really the refs just don't care anymore. They've given him enough amount of text where it's just, you can say what you want, JB, and we do respect you, but we're kind of frustrated with you from our perspective, right? So it goes both ways, and it's frustrating. And I do think Jaylen Brown would have made this game completely different. They were over doubling on him, I think, the entire game. I think a couple times Wembanyama came from the opposite block all the way to double Jaylen Brown in the corner, and Jaylen Brown made him pay for it. He was playing at an all-time elite level tonight, and unfortunately the refs cut it short. But I will say, from an offensive standpoint, I thought the Celtics played really, really well. I thought they moved the ball. I thought there were a lot of good things to like about this game tonight, and I just think Victor Wembanyama was kind of the truth, the answer, the ticket to success tonight, where you have guys like Garza and Caires, and I think he did a good job of exploiting them tonight, right? Because they're a little slower on their feet at times. Wembanyama can really get out to the perimeter and knock down shots, and he really forced the Celtics to extend and contest perimeter shots. And at times, Garza and Caires were caught in limbo, and Wembanyama was able to make the Celtics pay tonight. And that opening up the floor also allows other players to attack the rim and create for this team. So overall, really, really high level game. Super, super fun to watch. But the Spurs, to me, just out executed the Celtics a little more to get this victory. And now let's bring it over to the stat watcher. Let me get you guys over here. Tonight the game started off close, 31-29, 29-27, and in the third, Spurs kind of took a bit of a lead, 39-32, and then the fourth finishes 28-26. So really what we're talking about, the difference in this game, is that third quarter. And Daniel, I want you to talk about this because you mentioned this before we came on. Jason Tatum wasn't able to play a lot towards the end of the game. What kind of did you see from Tatum, and do you think that had an impact, kind of not his minutes restrictions, because there's no minutes restrictions on him, but we all know they're playing a little safe with Tatum so far throughout this season?
Yeah, I think there was a time, I can't remember whether it was late in the third or early in the fourth, but there was a time when this game was like really close, and I think it really was in that third quarter, that 7 point difference or differential. I feel like it happened because Derek White was going crazy in that third quarter. I think he had 19 points in that. No, it wasn't 19. Oh, it was 19. 19-point third quarter. And I feel like the perfect way to capitalize that, I think it was in the beginning of the fourth, was to play both White and Tatum to both keep them going. Keep White going, and then get Jason Tatum going as well offensively, and maybe the outcome of this game could have been different. But I think what Mazzulla did was he sat both of them. I'm not sure what. I think that's what happened. For that beginning of that fourth quarter, he sat both White and Tatum, which understandable. I think White played throughout the whole of the third quarter, played 12 minutes in that third quarter, and I guess maybe Tatum, with dealing with fatigue about the injury or something, I guess just didn't play either at the beginning of that fourth. But I think putting those guys in at the beginning of that fourth quarter changes the game definitely, because I think after the run Derek White went on, the best way to capitalize off of that is by keeping him going in that fourth. So I kind of understand what Missoula did by sitting both of them, but at the same time, um, we could have won this game based off of those two rotations. But yeah, it was definitely still close after that. There was a time where Ron Harper was hitting the shots and we were making stops defensively. So there were multiple chances where we could have won this game and we could have changed the outcome of this game, but just ended up not happening. But yeah, I think it was kind of a wrong decision sitting both White and Tatum over that period of time because it allowed the Spurs to kind of go on a little bit of a run and extend that lead.
Definitely, definitely. And I kind of want to ask you a question, Carl, and we already kind of discussed it, but Daniel mentioned fatigue, and this is obviously with Jason Tatum, but I brought it up, the big man depth. We had Garza and Keita playing majority of the minutes from that big man position. Do you think the Celtics could have maybe benefited from digging a little deeper and putting Amari Williams in to give Wembanyama a different look tonight?
Personally, I think so. When you're including, a player like an Amari Williams, somebody who definitely, needs a bit more development to really get acclimated to the NBA system, I think it helps out to essentially throw off, these, of course, high caliber players. This is something that I feel is very crucial and very important, especially again when you're using up Garza's minutes in, using up Keita as much as you can, in these almost high stakes games. This isn't the first time, the Celtics were, I guess debating on using him in, really, making him, efficient in this game. There was, of course, that Brooklyn Nets game that we almost lost, and I feel like a big reason for that was because they weren't really using Amari Williams. Yes, he came, in clutch towards the end of that game, very important to that victory. But I feel like he could have helped out in some way, shape, or form as well, too. And it's not just because of what he's already shown, but again, throwing off a Wemby, throwing off a Fox, throwing off, the other Harper, throwing off anybody and everybody else on this team could have definitely helped out. Not to say he's going to outplay these guys, but definitely, oh, now they're not really familiar with this player. They haven't really, gone ahead and played against Williams. So they're not, I guess, expecting, much from him. And then, I don't know, he maybe goes on some type of tear defensively, gives us more much needed rebounding, second chance points, anything. He could have, really helped out too. And that's one of the main problems I had, this season with the Celtics team, mainly Joe Mazzulla. I think Joe Mazzulla, again, is a fantastic coach and essentially does make the right calls most of the time. But I feel like if you really want the most out of Amari Williams, you have to put him in situations like this. Even if you're not going to use him, up that much, he can still be valuable, to this team. You were able to do that with Ron Harper Jr., who has essentially proven that he can be a reliable source to this team, giving you, again, what was it, 22 points, and that's something that's going to be discussed later as well, too. You're giving him, that shot, that chance. Why not do the same thing with Williams? We're not expecting him to do what he's doing, with the main Celtics, but, when it comes to this version of the Celtics, he could have helped out in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, I agree definitely. I think especially with Garza and foul trouble, and really even when he was playing, not doing much offensively. We were going to talk about it later, but I just want to mention it now. 24 minutes, 3 points, just 3 points from him. Um, uh, an assist and a steal. Not much going Garza's way, and those fouls definitely did not help. So I think with Keita also not having a really good offensive game or a good game in general, I think it definitely could have been a game to try out Amari Williams, and see how he can impact our team. Because, like you said, Carl, he could have done anything. Whether it's scoring, defending, plus minus, throwing off shots. Um, taking Wemby off of his rhythm, Fox, anybody else on the court. I feel like he could have done anything on the floor and it would have been better than what we got from both of our centers tonight. Because it wasn't much. I will say that. In a scoring standpoint and a rebounding standpoint, I don't think we saw much from both Keita and Garza combined. So I think this definitely was a game where we could have experimented with Amar Williams and see just to kind of not only to just kind of see what happens, but also because the playoffs are coming up. We have about a month left of basketball, a little bit more than that, and we're gonna need to know if Amar Williams is gonna be part of that rotation, part of that playoff squad or not. And I think these are the type of games where you need to, like you said, Carl, put him in and let him get that experience, and just kind of see where we're at in terms of our big man rotation, come playoff time. So we're still still a lot of games till the playoffs start, but at the same time, not a lot. There's not a lot of time to um, uh, develop these young guys, and get them ready for the playoffs. So I think this game definitely is an example. Like we did with Ron Harper, we should have done with Mara Williams as well.
Yeah, yeah, I'm with you guys. I think, like you said, Carl, just kind of giving Wembenyama just different looks, and just seeing how he reacts to it is so important, and it really throws a guy out of his rhythm, especially a guy like Wembenyama who was very much so in rhythm tonight and hitting all of his shots, right? And he was just he was obviously the main guy, the head of the horse, you could say, tonight for the Spurs. But I mean, overall the Spurs really played well as a collective, and even Ron Harper Jr., his brother on the other side, had a really good game. So if you don't mind taking away the Spurs stats and kind of giving us a little rundown of who performed well for them tonight.
Absolutely. Thank you again. So yeah, as we talked about Victor Wembanyama, when it comes to these Spurs performances, more than likely he's going to be leading these teams or this team. Other tonight, he finishes the game with a double double of 39 points and 11 rebounds on 55% in shooting. And his fellow co-star alongside him, Fox, gives you another 25 points, 9 assists, to steal on nearly 80% in shooting. So they were essentially shooting the lights out and playing really good defense. Then you have Castle alongside them, also in double digits in nearly a double double himself. Helped maybe even or triple double himself, 18 points, 9 rebounds, 6 assists on nearly 50% in shooting. As a collective, these three are really great together. They play, fantastic with one another, and it just doesn't stop with them because you also have great effort from Vassell, who gives you 14 points on 56% in shooting. And then, as you mentioned there, Andrew, Dylan Harper gives you 9 points, 4 rebounds, and 5 assists on 57% in shooting. People may say that's not much, but he was still impacting this game as well,
Mhm.
too, despite the fact that he was in single digits.
And those threes that he hit, kind
Exactly.
of in the course of the game, they were big threes, and they were big momentum threes, in my opinion. And
Both him and Keldon Johnson as well.
Yeah, now
Keldon Johnson, he was
yeah, sorry to cut you off, Carl, but yeah, even Keldon Johnson, I'm with you. I think 1 3, we left him wide open in transition, and I was
exactly.
kind of pissed off. I'm like, what are we doing here? Like he's capable, right? So, and I think that's the thing too that is so crazy about this Spurs team. I mean, top to bottom, this team is capable. They're good, man. The depth is insane. Can argue more deep than the Celtics team. I think they're up there in depth, and they're just dangerous, man. It's kind of like that LeBron James quote or kind of story when Kawhi Leonard came off the bench for the Spurs, and you kind of turn your head and you're at the free throw line, exhausted, gasping for air, and now you see Kawhi Leonard coming in to guard you. This is kind of what that Celtics team, this Spurs team has. I mean, Carter Bryant, Fox, Kendall. I mean, not Kendall. Keldon, and all those guys. I mean, it's crazy to watch, and they really can wear down a team. But Carl, please continue.
Yeah, yes, pretty much. Yeah, I was also gonna, just address Johnson. He also put up 8.6 rebounds on 43% in shooting, and yeah, pretty much as you guys discussed too. Just those guys alone, Dylan Harper and Keldon Johnson were also very much important. Just like on every on any other given night, especially tonight, big threes and just in general that defensive effort, just effort in general, from those
Mhm.
guys, adding to the fact that three of your main players are in digits, nearing at or above 20 some points. Just
Yeah.
insane.
Yeah, it's painful to say, but this Spur team is, as they have been for a very, very long time. There was a little lull between Popovich and his unfortunate retiring, but this team has always been good for the NBA. They play hard, they play together, and they don't really cheat the game. And I think both these teams, the Celtics and the Spurs, have really proven themselves as teams that are not only talented but also work hard and do the and have grit day in and day out. But Carl, if you want to, I mean Daniel, if you want to take away the Celtic stats for us and kind of highlight them. Unfortunately, we lost this game, but there's still some things to be happy about for tonight for sure.
Yeah, definitely. So a lot of light from some of these guys tonight. I'm gonna go from bottom to top. I'll just kind of talk about the most influential guys. Start with Charmin. 35 minutes, 6 points, 6 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 for 6 from the field. Hit some really good shots at times. I thought. So even though the shooting was bad, I think some of those threes he hit were nice for us. Then you have obviously Jalen Brown in that first quarter, I guess, kind of half of the second quarter a little bit. Um, most of that second. 8 points, 2 rebounds, 7 assists, a steal, and shot 50% from the field. So as you can see, a really good game from him so far. And like we said earlier, this game would have been his, if he had just stayed in the game. This was his game to take over. But yeah, Sam Hauser, the next guy, 34 minutes, 11 points, 7 rebounds, 3 assists, and 2 steals. I feel like even though we shot 40% from the field, 3 for 8 from three, I just felt like there were some open threes that he could have hit, that he should have hit, but just didn't. Um, so yeah, just to point that out, I just felt like we could have seen a little bit more from Hauser tonight. Just kind of some open threes not falling. But you could say the same for the whole team, honestly, tonight. So yeah, not a bad game from him. Jason Tatum tonight, really good effort. 24 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists, and 2 steals. 41% from the field. I think I could say a really good game from him. And once again, following the trend of 27 minutes played, it's been what, 3 games now? Yeah, 3 games of that
Mhm.
consistent, those consistent minutes, which makes you think maybe he is on a 27-minute restriction. Like maybe that's the limit of minutes. I guess I don't know. We'll find out
I
in the
mean,
future games.
yeah, I would assume so, right? Because you got to imagine a game like tonight, right? A competitive game, a potential finals matchup. I don't want to get too ahead of myself, but I it's in the realm of possibilities. You would have thought that in a regular game for Jason Tatum, a game where he is in fact fully back, and he said it himself, he's still on the recovery journey, right? Every game is another step towards finding getting back to himself. Granted, I think he looks pretty much like himself. I think occasionally he's a little sluggish and his legs, he could still use his legs underneath him. And that's just the way basketball goes. But you would have assumed he would have had a couple more minutes in this game, potentially near 40. I mean, in a night like tonight, you need that from him. And unfortunately, he was unable to give it to you because of the circumstances that he went through these past 9 months.
Yeah, exactly. Like I was saying, in that third quarter slash fourth quarter, we could have used him out there with Derek Wright. When Derek Wright was going crazy, and having that run of his in that third. But yeah, at the end of the day, we just want to make sure Tatum gets as healthy as he can, and I think this is part of that process. So,
Mhm.
I don't mind it at all.
I mean, steady progress. I mean,
Yeah,
every game
definitely.
he's increased his numbers,
Yeah,
increased his
he's
confidence. I mean,
he's
that's all you
slowly
can
but
ask
surely
for.
getting back up there.
Yeah, that's all you can ask for.
Yeah, already averaging 20 points, which in 3 games that's a lot. I'm
Mhm.
very happy about that. Um, so yeah, going on. Gotta mention Ron Harper Jr.
Oh, that's the wrong one. I don't have the right one at all, but I thought I did, fellas. My bad. But yeah, Ron
It's
Harper
all good.
Jr.
Ron Harper Jr. probably definitely the best game of his career so far, of his Celtics career at least. 22 points, 3 rebounds, 2 assists, 8 for 11 from the field, and 6 threes. He was amazing for us tonight, especially in that fourth quarter where he kind of started to gain like a little bit of a spark. 11 points in the fourth quarter, 4 for 6 and three 3 pointers made. He was kind of our light. After Derek White's third quarter, you have Ron Harper Jr. coming in the fourth and possibly changing up the game for us. Making it competitive. At least we can say that from the Celtics. We made this game competitive even without Jalen Brown. Um, and then to top it off, Derek White, 34 points, 5 rebounds, 7 assists, and a block, 50% from the field. Once again, really good game from White, and that third quarter was massive for us. So yeah, that's it for the Celtics. And you know, even though we lost, gotta give a shout out to Derek White, Harper, and Tatum, because again, like I said, they made the game close, and they made the game competitive. When JB goes out, some fans are thinking it's over. And then you have White, Tatum, and Ron Harper at least making it close and at least giving the Celtics fans some hope throughout the game, even without Jalen Brown. So shout out to them.
That's a great point. And I think we've seen this as a common theme, and you've mentioned it, Daniel, time in and time again. I mean, the Celtics are always making these games competitive, right? It's always coming down to the final couple of minutes where either they decide to win or the other team decides to kind of take off, right? So I think the Celtics team has really built an identity on staying consistent and playing through adversity, just no matter what is going on around them. And I'll say it time and again that starts with Joe Mazzulla, right? The guy who's got a positive head on his shoulders, who's very calm, collected, puts these guys' vision on the future or I should say the present of what's most important, and they just go out and play basketball, right? And I think tonight the Celtics did a really, really good job at showing us that you're a lead guy. I mean, Jalen Brown, he's your MVP. He's your leader of this team for right now. I mean, obviously, I think it's two pronged with Tatum and Brown, but he's been the guy you look towards every day to try to win basketball games, and he's out. And where do you look? Where do you go? How do you win? How do you make sure to not dwell on that moment and just play basketball? And this team did that tonight. And you can complain about the loss and be upset and even complain that the refs effed up. But if we're being honest, I think the Celtics team continued to push forward and just played the game how it's meant to be played, and I think that shows itself in how this game turned out. But Carl, I want to ask you, and Ron Harper Jr., man, such a talented player, and we've talked about him an insane amount on this podcast, and it's warranted. I mean, this guy, he's everything that we talk about, and there's no false information about this guy. He's the real deal. What did you like from him tonight, and how do you think the Celtics can implement him into this rotation as we move forward? Because I think he really is an elite player that the Celtics can find ways to utilize as the season continues.
When you're looking at this performance from Ron Harper Jr., obviously, the one thing you have to really say, and the one word that essentially exemplifies this entire performance is just effort. When it comes to this team in general, especially the young players, there's always effort, and there's the Ron Harper Jr. fan right there too. He deserves it. He absolutely deserves it because there was so much effort from this kid, draining threes that he was not even supposed to hit. It was almost getting to a point where if we were able to come away with this win, he's being referred to as this rando who essentially beat Victor Wembanyama and the San Antonio
And beat his brother.
And beat his brother too. Which
he did beat his brother actually tonight. He had more points. Objectively, had more points on the stat sheet. So
Yeah, I
If
agree.
anyone won, it was Ron Harper tonight.
Truthfully, and that's a weird thing too. I think part of the reason why he played like this was because of his brother. Maybe between them there's some type of competition, but also he knows that he's on one of the greater teams in NBA and just in general sports history. So there's an expectation to play at your absolute best, even when you're not meant to be one of those guys, one of those main guys. And I feel like after this performance, the Celtics are taking yet another look at Ron Harper and really looking to incorporate him, into their, overall future as an organization moving forward. This is a guy who, again, was, like you just said, Andrew, besting his own brother who was on comparatively a better team. Although, when it
And
comes to
comparatively a better player too. I
oh,
mean,
that too, yeah.
right?
No, exactly. Yeah. And it's just great to see, Ron Harper not only playing like this, but also essentially proving himself. He could potentially be somewhat of what Payton Pritchard was in his starting years, essentially taking that spot over for Payton Pritchard. Because, of course, with Pritchard, him not being there tonight too really hurt us. Um, and I feel like, in the future, when we need, somebody to fill in that void, if Pritchard is again hurt or dealing with something, then we could potentially call on a Ron Harper Jr., essentially taking up that spot because not only is he also really good offensively, also really good at defense as well. So definitely, this is somebody that we need to keep, we need to further develop, and we need to, keep in our system and, just find ways to incorporate him whether he's playing alongside Peyton Pritchard or playing, after him, so as like that third string guard, coming after him, and of course Derek White. Definitely, I'm very high on Ron Harper Jr. Not just because we've been glazing him on this channel, and rightfully so, because again, great player. But tonight he really showed a lot of great effort, and again, if we came away with the win, he would have been CNR MVP.
Yeah.
Definitely. I agree, Carl. I think there are a lot of factors that go into Ron Harper playing tonight. Matchup against his brother, J and Peyton Pritchard being out. But what Griffin said, and that's what I was going to bring up. Does JB's ejection play a factor into Ron Harper's game, and does Ron Harper have that same game with if JB was still playing? That's something to ponder about. That's a good question. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, and I mean, we can speculate on that and kind of and kind of go into that. Yeah,
Yeah,
100%. Ron Harper Jr. got more opportunity tonight because Jalen Brown did not play, so the door was a little more wide open for him to get minutes on the court tonight.
yeah, definitely a good thing to think about. But I think he does deserve more minutes after this game on the team.
Hmm.
Both him and Amar Williams actually. Now that I think about it, I think now is the time for Missoula to start incorporating these guys more in the rotations, and just kind of basing it off of like a game to game basis. Where a game where Garza and Keita aren't playing that well or are on foul trouble, put Amari in. A game where Pritchard isn't playing that well or is out or JB's or White isn't playing that well, you throw in Ron Harper. So there are times and instances where these two guys could be even Tonji maybe at some point, but Tonji's kind of like low in that like feel like now in the
Yeah, I think
rotation Harper and Amari Williams are like higher.
I
Yeah,
think partially too, it's
I
just we
think
have so
he
much
wasn't even worth
depth. It's
mentioning him.
it's really hard to find
Yeah,
minutes for these guys.
but yeah, definitely Amari and Ron should deserve more minutes after this. If I'm Joe Mazzulla, finding a way to put them in the lineup, whenever they're needed.
Yeah, definitely. And this is a question for you guys, and I don't want to put two guys against each other, and I think both have their place on this roster. A guy like Hugo Gonzalez, is Ron Harper Jr. and Hugo Gonzalez from a holistic standpoint, is there distance between each other that far? And I'm not I don't know because I think Ron Harper Jr. to me, when he is on fire and when he's knocking down his three-point shots, he's a little more consistent than Hugo Gonzalez from beyond the arc. That's my opinion, and you can say otherwise, but I do think Hugo Gonzalez has the edge on the defensive end. But the way Ron Harper Jr. has been defending, it's kind of impressive. And we don't got to go too far into this. And honestly, this could be a podcast topic, and you guys can check out our podcast on CNR. We're going to try to get one out this week. That'll be episode 90, which is insane. The countdown to 100, and you guys want to be on that journey once we do hit 100. But quick and short, what do you guys think? I could be talking out of thin air, but I don't know.
That's a good question. I didn't even think about it until now, and I think they're both definitely comparable and both compatible in that sense, but I also feel like they both bring different things to the table. You know, they both offer different things. But if we're talking on a like overall standpoint, I'm not sure. I'm really not sure because I did like the way Ron Harper Jr. was playing defense today. I just don't know about it being consistent. You know, that defensive stint. You get more of it, that consistency and hustle from Gonzalez, but at the same time, Gonzalez has he'll have one really good game and then like four like okay ones, and then the consistency offensively is also not there for Gonzalez, and you could see that being like a more consistent thing for Ron Harper. So yeah, definitely a good question. I think if I had to take one person over both of them, I think I'm still taking Gonzalez, but I think it's something that has to be like, keep an eye on that, Celtics fans, because I think in the next few games you could see, if obviously if Ron Harper gets more minutes, you could see a clear difference between the two of these, and maybe Missoula trusts one of them over the other come playoff time. Who knows?
Yeah, definitely. Carl, what do you think?
I think when you're looking at both of these players, weirdly enough, I feel like in a weird way they should have kind of like swapped spots. Think about it like this: Hugo Gonzalez is coming into the NBA and is not that much of a scorer, mainly a defensive guy, mainly an effort guy, which obviously got him more minutes with the Celtics, and he has been one of the greater stories within this team, and I would even say the NBA, because outside of the defense, the great defense that he always has, and even when he's playing okay, he's showing so much effort. He, again, 19 years old, is showing all this effort. He knows that his minutes can't go to waste, and he's just trying to help his team win. At some point in time, he's leading rookies in plus minuses, and I'm pretty sure he's still doing that, especially on the all-time level. So, and me too. I love this kid. I absolutely love this kid. I don't even care too much about his offense, because I feel like that's something that could eventually develop.
And that's also not something needed from him too, right? Like he's a role player, right? We're not expecting that from him. So that could also kind of come into this equation as well.
Exactly. And I feel like maybe that's why people could pick Ron Harper Jr. over him. My apologies. Is because he is more consistently a better, offensive player, and he can also play defense too. So you could have probably found yourself in a situation where Hugo's the one who's actually playing with the main Celtics first, and then Ron Harper taking his spot, with the main roster Celtics, just because of them being different and Ron comparatively being better. And that's not me saying Ron is bad, but of course, he's really just trying to get more acclimated within the NBA. Of course, right now, I'm going to still go with Hugo Gonzalez. Again, love the effort, love the tenacity, and he's, stopping players like a Karl Anthony Towns. It's great to see him just showing his effort, and Ron Harper Jr. is getting there. And we saw that tonight, and I feel like we can see that for, more nights to come. And honestly, it would be very difficult, because you could find yourself in a position where you're going to have to pick one over the other, especially with how you're going to use your time, against them in crucial games. Maybe you could go with the Hugo Gonzalez like you did with that Brooklyn Nets game, or you can go with Ron Harper Jr. like you did with this game. Either way, though, both of them provide some great effort, even though one is greater on defense and the other is greater on offense on a more consistent levels.
Yeah. I mean, I think it goes either way. And I think my answer would be Gonzalez. I think at this point in time, like we said, he does kind of fit more of that role that we're looking for in Gonzalez, but Ron Harper Jr. is definitely making a case to get more minutes, and I think that's a positive we can all agree on. And finally, we're gonna wrap it up real soon. I just want to quickly Bam Adebayo, 83 points, beating Kobe Bryant for 81, and he is now in second place all time for the scoring record. That is insane. I just want to give you guys the floor real quick to comment on it and kind of just express your thoughts, because I think we all have a lot regarding that.
Yeah, massive game from him. I don't know what happened after that first quarter or during that first quarter. 30 points in the first quarter is unheard of. The team scored 40, by the way. The team scored 40 first quarter points. Bam had 30 of them. You know how insane that is?
It's insane.
Like,
It's ridiculous.
but yeah, I think there's still some Kobe fans that could say that, something about the free throws. Because I mean he had 43 field goals taken and then 43 free throws taken as well. There's some that there's some there's a case there for Kobe fans that Kobe might have done it with a better shooting percentage or less free throws, but I think the points is all that matters, and the win for the Heat. Regardless that it was against the Wizards, a team that basically has nothing to fight for at this point, but I think still a historical night for Bam Adebayo.
Hey, I don't care what you say. When a guy scores 30 points in the first quarter, you have something to fight for.
Yeah,
and it's your dignity, man. So I don't care what you say. When that happens, you got to fight for a lot more than just a win and kind of playoff seeding. It's friggin' man to man. I'm not letting you score that. And my concern, Jalen Rose, he's been through it. Maybe Jalen Rose is kind of sitting back somewhere in his room, like
with this martini.
finally, someone can join me in my pain. Someone, I think it's Jalen Rose is probably a very happy man today. I'm not gonna lie. But Carl, what do you think?
Like Daniel said, 31 points in that first quarter. Second half, 43 points. He breaks LeBron's record as an all-time scorer within, the Miami Heat franchise in a single game. And in the same night, dethroned Kobe as second all-time in that record. He is now closer to Wilt Chamberlain's 100 points, which I know a lot of individuals will be like, where's the footage of that? But he is close. He's closest to that. So much so, and we've talked about this during, the group chat and everything like that, but what he did tonight broke the real app. We couldn't even review what was going on because of the 83 points that he casually dropped on a Tuesday night against the Washington Wizards. This feels like a 2K cutscene, and I'm not trying to say anything, bad about Bam Adebayo. I've always liked him, always had respect for him, but this, just out of nowhere, all of a sudden, somebody who hasn't, won a championship or anything like that, but still important within today's NBA, doing this and doing so, after Kobe did so 20 years prior. I saw, as, time was going by, he drops 50. I was like, oh, okay. Then he's at 55. He might as well go. I'm not trying to be LeBron James here when he claimed that he knew Kobe was going to drop 81. But that's how I felt like. He went to 60. I was like, might as well go for 70. Then there's Griffin there. And then 77, I'm like, oh my gosh, he's actually going to beat Kobe's record. And if he didn't miss, some of his shots, would have hit at least 100. At the very least 90. I don't know what else to say. It's a big night for the Miami Heat fan base. Of course, Bam Adebayo. Of course, his lady, Asia Wilson, and his mother. Gentlemen, soon I will be going to Nigeria in December. I'm going to be wearing a Bam Adebayo jersey just in honor of him, just because of what he did for his team. And I would even say basketball too, because a lot of people don't realize this. This is making basketball even more relevant. We need moments like this. and it is
Sure,
just great.
yeah.
Yes, yes, it's just great to see him doing this, and it'd be even better if he was in the green. But hey, the Miami Heat fan base, you got this one. Congratulations to y'all, and even bigger congratulations to Bam Adebayo.
Yeah, it's kinda hard to hate on him for this one. I mean, it's just kinda good for him, right? Like, that's really, really cool. I mean, you are forever ingrained in the history books, and I think a lot of people thought Kobe was kinda gonna be that guy. Like, I didn't think anyone thought it was even possible, and Bam Adebayo has now surpassed Kobe Bryant and has solidified himself in NBA history. So I'm sure Bam Adebayo is going through a lot of emotions right now. Just, I mean, like he's got to be grateful for this moment, man, and honestly, good for him, dude. That is something that you can cherish for a long time. So, but with all that being said, thank you guys so much for watching another episode of the CNR pod or recap, I should say. We really, really appreciate you and keep watching, keep coming along. We're nearing closer to that 100th podcast episode, man. I mean, we're committed to giving you Celtics content day in and day out. So once again, thank you for watching, and until next time, peace.
Later.
Peace.